Are you feeling this increasing commodification of everything in the world and increasing marketization or something? If you are feeling this, my directive is the title of the video. Keep in mind the non-ergodicity of staying alive. So, this non-ergodicity concept, has been brought to me by Malcolm Ocean in a tweet linking to this blog post by Taylor Pearson that I will link below. And it's called A Little Big Idea called Ergodicity, or the Ultimate Guide to Russian Roulette. As you can see, it is themed with this staying alive concept. The quick explanation of ergodicity here is that ergodicity can be, in an ergodic scenario, the average outcome of the group is the same as the average outcome of the individual over time. An example of an ergodic system is the outcomes of a coin toss. If 100 people flip a coin once, or one person flips a coin 100 times, you get the same outcome. In a non-ergodic system, the individual over time does not get the average outcome of the group, which is the gambling thought experiment of the same thing but above. Imagine that instead of 100 people flipping a coin, they bet on the outcome of that coin versus if you get one person to flip a coin 100 times and bet on that outcome. The outcome in that case, the difference is huge, right? You could expect that it depends on the characteristic of the gambling thought experiment, right? But you could expect very different consequences of how much the person wins versus how much the average person wins versus loses in the group with 100 people, right? This is a completely non-ergodic experiment. And we as people tend to think that most systems are ergodic, but they are not, and this is particularly true in the case of financial education. Like, most financial material assumes ergodicity, even though it is never the case. And this is the problem, I think. This is the big problem with what I said to you at the beginning of, are you feeling this sense of increasing marketization and increasing commodification of everything? This is the problem with the commodification, that the financial education material is so bad. Well, it's not necessarily bad or whatever, right? But it is that they assume ergodicity when it is not the case, right? So self-help gurus who use marketization or that use commodification arguments to explain how to live life things to you, careful with that shit, because they are not taking into account ergodicity, right? They are talking about the shit that they talk about as if it were ergodic. Alex Hormozy is, for example, the prime example of this, right? Alex Hormozy talks his shit to the winning percentage of the people who listen to him, right? But the problem is that his book's reviews are full of people who are not that person, right? The book has 5-star reviews by 95% of people who don't actually who have not actually won anything out of his books, right? This is the problem with the whole ecosystem, that it is a very non-ergodic system, and people are trying to paint it. His books are about business, right? So in that case, I can respect it more or less. But if they are about self-help, about life development and all this, then the dynamics of how the world works are not coherent, in my opinion, with how the actual shit plays out in the real world, right? Here is the end of that paragraph, in case you find it interesting, because I like it. If I lose all your money, you are in no way comforted that other people who you don't know did fine. Even if their assessment of the probabilities were right, no person can get the returns of the market unless they have infinite pockets. If the investor has to eventually reduce his or her exposure because of losses, or margin calls, or because of retirement, or because a loved one got sick and needed an expensive treatment, the investor's return will be divorced from those of the market. Right? This is the point, right? The market. Okay, but I'm not the fucking market, right? Maybe I want to go to Thailand for a year. Maybe I want to pay my mom's a mortgage. Maybe I don't want to do anything, but I have to fucking pay debt that someone had or something like that. I don't know. There are a million things. And this is only talking about the financial things, right? So imagine if we talk about life, right? This is why examples such as, if you had bought Amazon stock in 1999 and held it for 20 years, you would have done great even, are dumb. From 1999, the price of the stock collapsed by over 90%. The type of person that bought a bunch of Amazon stock in 1999 probably also bought a bunch of other crap stocks and had a job in tech. In 2001, they had to sell everything to make rent. And yeah, I think that an example, not an example, but continuing with this, right? That those are very economic things, right? Buying stocks, investment portfolios, and all this. I mean this, that increasingly people are giving advice on shit just as if it were stocks portfolios or things like this, right? So increasingly your life is a stock portfolio that you can have to diversify, blah, 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 right? There is this commodification of everything. And these people, like, the problem with this is that if the advice was good and it was accurate to how the life market works or whatever the fuck, then it would be interesting, and it would be, there would be interesting consequences, right? Sorry, there would be interesting advice and it would be interesting to analyze. The problem is that they are failing to take into account kind of this basic assumption that your life is very fucking different from every other one's life, which is obvious, right? This shit is obvious, but the advice makes it not sure if by the nature of advice itself or whatever, but the increasing financialization of everything combined with this kind of immense availability of advice combined together, I think, make a bomb of this kind of stupid shit, shit that should not be taken as advice, but that is taken as advice because it's put together in such a way that it taps you somewhere in the brain memetically, right? It memetically taps you in the brain in some kind of way that it really shouldn't, based on how life actually works, right? And yeah, I don't know. My personal thing, the thing that inspired me to make this video was that when people talk about things like whatever, you do whatever in your 20s, you have time, blah, 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 for everything, that people sometimes mistake the non-ergodic consequences of that, right? So people who, when giving that advice or whatever, or find yourself, your 20s are for finding yourself, blah, 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 it's like, okay, but don't take it too far, right? It's like, think of non-ergodicity, right? Think that if it's over, it's over. Don't find yourself so much that you end up, I don't know, it's like, don't find suicide, for example, right? Don't find death. Those are things that you can find if you find yourself, right? You can find yourself in those situations. I don't know, maybe it's obvious, but I don't know, it's not that obvious, to be honest. It's like depression is also pretty bad, right? Don't put yourself in places that are going to make you depressed, right? I don't know. Which is also difficult to plan. But I don't know. I believe that there is an extent to which you can kind of plan these things, right? It's like taking a risk that doesn't work out can kill you, right? So take that into account. I think this is, before making this video, I was putting this into a stream, right? I was talking about this on stream, and my viewer, Hanio, said something like, something related to more default wisdom, right? Which is that he was the opposite, right? He was kind of the opposite of this kind of financial advice or whatever, because he already had this kind of risk-minded outlook on life regarding his job, right? For example, in his job, he was like, oh, if I do this mistake at my job, it will go bad or something like this, right? And the consequences turns out to not be as hard as I expected. And I think that is kind of default wisdom, and that default wisdom is kind of non-ergodic already, right? Default wisdom already has this kind of catastrophic change of events baked in. So if you are default wisdom minded, you can ignore this video, right? This video is for this kind of new TikTok-pilled Gen Z, Gen Alpha type shit, people who are always glued to their phones, right? This video is for those kind of people. If you don't listen to your mom or whatever, maybe this is kind of the video that makes you not listen to your mom or whatever, but to be like, okay, she's kind of spitting because her shit is more non-ergodic than what the fucking guru on the internet with like 500,000 subscribers is saying, right? This is kind of the message of this video. And yeah, if you reached this far into the video, maybe you're interested in that video called Thinking Out Loud about the commodification of love/value. It has only 6 views, so it maybe is not that interesting. but maybe it's a gem that people have not discovered yet. So who knows? It's a video talking about the term of value and how everything is commodified these days, right? Maybe if you've related to this video, maybe you relate to that one as well.